Welcome to the Two Geeks and a Microphone podcast, your one-stop shop for television, movie, video games, comic books, book reviews, and more. Now, without further ado, here's Steven and Mike.
And good day, everybody. Hey, welcome to the Two Geeks and a Microphone podcast. We are so excited that you are joining us. We are happy to have you as we are having another virtual coffee table discussion about a movie that Mike said you need to watch this because he's a big fan of this comic book character, and I will let him introduce himself and our topic for the day. Mike, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Welcome to the podcast, all you geeks out there in geekdom land. So Today we'll be talking a little Flashpoint Paradox. I thought with all the Justice League talk, it might be fun to go back and look at Flashpoint. I think it's a great story. I know it delves into the multiverse and it really kicks off the multiverse in a way.
It does.
I mean, the multiverse has been around for years, honestly. It's been around since the 80s. And Flashpoint actually began 2011. So I think we are at the 10th anniversary of this story, actually.
Oh, okay.
So probably a good time to re-look at Flashpoint anyway.
I hear what you're saying. So, but you love the Flash. You love the Flash.
Yes. Flash is one of my favorite characters. I like all three iterations of the Flash. Barry, of course, is my favorite of the three. But, But I have a special place for both Jay Garrick and Wally West in my heart. They're both great Flashes. But Barry, I like Barry the best. So
Okay. So yeah, you had me going at 3 iterations. What do you mean 3 iterations of the Flash? And I was like, oh, okay. But
we have the Golden Age, we have the Silver Age.
Okay, so who's Golden Age? Golden Age
would be Jay Garrick.
Okay.
Silver Age would be Barry
Allen.
And then I don't know what they consider Wally, because when Barry dies, spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. Oh,
there is a point where Barry dies. Barry dies saving the universe. One of the first iterations of the multiverse.
Right.
In the first Crisis on Infinite Earths, which I love that storyline too, by the way. Yeah, Barry dies, and then Wally takes over as the Flash. He goes from being Kid Flash to the Flash at that point.
To the Flash, okay.
Right. So, but I don't know I forget what they consider him, because Barry is the Silver Age, so I don't remember what Wally is.
Mm-hmm. But you said, does this kick off the multiverse for DC, or DC always had a multiverse going on?
Well, technically DC's had a multiverse since the 80s, because Crisis on Infinite Earths was supposed to bring all the Earths together, because you had multiple Earths at that point.
I remember that.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Crisis was supposed to, and then of course they had an event that busted them all apart again, and then they've had another, they've had so many crises. I've lost count of how many crises there's been.
Okay.
It's a little crazy. But
see, that goes back to my whole thing. It's lazy storytelling. Oh, let's just do this. Okay,
see, I disagree with that. I disagree with that. I think it opens up so many multiple possibilities.
Well, I agree. I'm just saying that, if you try to do canon, you're like, crap, we've got this canon that we got to stick with the character. I'm like, no, we don't. Let's just throw it into a multiverse and we can tell this story. Now, some of them are good stories. And I will say that Flashpoint Paradox was a good story. Yes. It really was.
Yeah.
But anyway, continue on. I'm interrupting you. Sorry. Pardon me.
But Flashpoint, in my opinion, really kicks off the multiverse as we know it today.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Okay. That makes sense.
I mean, like I said, they've had a multiverse since the early 80s, technically. But the way we see the multiverse today, it really Flashpoint's the point that kicks that off. It really does.
All right.
And you enjoyed the New 52. I am not a fan of New 52. I don't like some of the things they did in the New 52.
Well, to be open, I've only read the Batman New 52.
Okay.
And let me tell you, that's a dark Joker, but that's a whole nother.
Well, they took Superman and Wonder Woman in places I didn't like. I was not happy with, and I'm like, I don't like this junk.
Okay, everybody know we just hate it. Well, looks like we're gonna have to do a New 52 discussion.
Anyway, so
all right, but New 52, was that like a reboot? Was that like a Crisis, a new reboot then?
Yeah. It was.
But New 52 no longer applies. There's a new one now, right?
Yeah, they've changed it since then.
Yeah, I mean, so
yes, I agree. It's just there's some things they did that I really didn't like. But yeah, we won't go into that here. If we're going to do that, we'll do a New 52 discussion, and it'll be a lot of hate for me, honestly.
Yeah. Hey, and just for the listeners, we just wanted to let you know that before we started this podcast, both Mike and I admitted that we're both ADD.
Which could be why we go off topic a lot.
No, we don't go off topic. We create new topics for new episodes.
That's what it is. Yeah, there you go.
How'd you like that spin?
I like that. That's a good one.
Man, I got my waders on. I'm shoveling.
That's awesome.
Okay, so let's talk about Flashpoint Paradox. So this was my first time seeing it. So I got some interesting insights I think I want to share about the film. But overall, let me just give you my, batarangs, how many batarangs I would give it. Or are we doing something else? Flash years.
Yeah, let's go flash lightning bolts. How's that?
Flash lightning bolts. I like it. All right. So out of 5, because that's not normally it's our thing, it's out of 5. I actually would give this 4 out of 5. Because one, the story was good. The overall premise of the story, I do think the movie kind of expected you to know some of Flashpoint or at least some about the characters, because it's fast paced. No doubt about it. It is fast paced. There's not a whole lot of characters trying to give you exposition or anything like that, to a certain degree.
Oh, definitely.
And it jumps sometimes so much that I'm like, wait, what just happened? Only to realize that it explains after the fact of, hey, I've got these memories and they're of this world and then the last world, and they're starting to mix. I'm like, oh, okay, that's what's happening. So there were a few moments I was like, wait, what? What's going on? But that story. So the story side of it, the characters that are introduced are incredible. And I mean that we'll get into this, but I mean specifically Thomas Wayne Batman.
Yes.
I absolutely love, because we'll get into this, but when he first came on the screen, I was like, what? Batman's got guns? What is up with that? Kind of a thing. And then when it went through to explain it, kind of a thing, or, we'll talk about that first battle that you see with him with the Yo-Yo, the fake Harlequin.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I wouldn't call her fake. She's alternate.
Okay.
Because would you say that Thomas Wayne is fake?
No. Good call.
Right.
Good call.
He's alternate.
Multiverse language.
Right.
Alternate.
or to put it in the terms you don't like, multiverse.
Right. Multiverse Harley into Yo-Yo, which that was a cool fight. So I'm sure we'll get into that. That's just talking about characters. Action wise, it was pretty incredible. Quick. Some of it was really quick, what they were doing, but you knew where they were going. Huge. I would equate it to, Marvel Infinity War / no, even more than Infinity War. I'd give it Endgame. that huge battle at the end kind of a thing. That's what this was. And it was a fate of the world kind of a thing. I was like, holy, this was high stakes. And I like that.
Well,
I like the high stakes.
Yeah, it's high stakes because it's universe changing. This is not a story. This is not a story that you know when you go into it, you kind of think, oh, well, wait a minute, things are changing, but they're going to change back, and then you find out at the end, no, things changed in Barry's regular timeline for the good. Mm-hmm. Well, for the good or bad, depending on how you look at it,
Yeah, I thought it was a great twist, and I'll get into this about the timeline change. We'll talk about that, about how it all occurred and stuff. But I do appreciate you saying, Steven, you got to watch this movie and stuff. So thank you. So I did watch it. I did watch it on HBO Max. It was in the DC portal, so I was pretty excited about that. So
yep.
All right, so give me your overview. I gave it 4 out of 5. Lightning bolts. I love that. Flash lightning bolts.
Right. As far as a DC story goes, this is one of my favorite DC storylines. I would probably give this 5 flash lightning bolts. I will go 5 on this one.
And that's based just story and stuff. I mean, obviously it's not a perfect movie.
Well, no movies.
For enjoyability factor.
Yes.
Story. Okay, I got you.
Because again, I love the Flash. I love Barry Allen. He is my favorite Flash. I just love the way he is in this film. It really, I think it really shows Barry's heart in this film, which is cool. That's the main thing about Barry Allen. I love Thomas Wayne Batman. He's such a fantastic version of Batman, and so different. Right. You get a totally different look at Batman, but that's because he's not the same Batman at all. I love that. I love the twist on the Joker. The twist on the Joker was fantastic.
Oh, we've got to talk about that.
Yes. Oh. The Atlantean Amazon
that has implications for the Flashpoint movie.
Oh yeah.
We'll talk about that. Okay, go ahead.
The Atlantean Amazon War is pretty fantastic.
We'll get into that. We'll get into that. Yeah, this is our overview.
The details that lead into the war, I'm not keen on. We'll leave it at that. So again, that's where it's not a perfect story, but as far as enjoyability, yeah, this story is incredible. It's love
worth
it.
A watch. Mm-hmm.
Definitely. So 5 out of 5 flash lightning bolts.
Right on. All right. Well, all right. Let's open Pandora's box here.
Nice.
All right. So I will talk about what I like and what I don't like as we go through it, but I thought we could just go through and walk through the story.
Sure.
I liked how it began with Barry at his mom's grave. And you saw the emotional turmoil of a character. I thought, what a great way to start. What a great way to start. It's giving you the tension point of what's happening and kind of a thing. And so then he goes off running, he's with Iris, and then he goes off running, and you're like, what's he doing? And then all of a sudden he's at his desk and he wakes up, and I'm like, okay, how did we get here?
Wait a minute. You skipped the scene with his mother, though. At the car, the broken down car.
Oh, well, there was that where he wants to run. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That was a good scene. And
it was that's where we with his mom.
That's where we get the point where his mom says basically
the Serenity Prayer.
The Serenity Prayer, which I really, really like that. And that comes back to play later in the film too, a little bit later in the film.
It comes back to kick him in the butt.
Yeah.
That takes you back to Spider-Man. With great power comes great responsibility.
Great responsibility. Uncle Ben.
Oh, wait, we crossed the streams, DC and Marvel. Sorry about that.
That's all right. I love Spider-Man. So
I love Spider-Man. So, okay. So then it comes up, and then he doesn't have his powers. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Just happened? So,
Wait a minute. You coming
difference.
You coming into this first time watching it.
Mm-hmm.
Did that throw you off?
Yes, it did.
Nice.
It did, because I was like, wait a minute. How did we get here? I must have skipped something. I was like, well, let me rewind this a little bit. Did I go to the bathroom?
I love
and
it.
come back and miss something?
That's awesome.
Kind of a thing. So it was honestly, it was jarring, because I was like, well, what in the world just happened?
But that really sets that dark pace too.
It
that
did.
we're about to go into.
After watching it, yes. I
people a lot of people complain outside the DC fandom that DC is so dark. But see, in this film, the darkness actually plays into the story.
It is, yes, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And if the darkness,
I'll give you that. You're absolutely right.
If the darkness is there to help forward the story, I completely get it. If you're just being dark just to be dark, that's
like the Penguin in Batman Returns. Maybe.
Right, yeah. That
right.
Yeah, that was
the darkness is a character,
right? Yeah,
in the story.
Mm-hmm.
For lack of a better term. Yeah, it is a central element in the story. Yes.
Okay, sorry.
Because you're meant to feel that. No, that is a good point to bring up. At that point, it does set that up, because then he falls and he sees his mom, and I'm like, what just happened? Now, in all openness, I thought, and I got another thing I got to tell you about, but Eobard Thawne,
yes,
did it all. I thought, I went into it the whole way through the movie.
Oh, nice.
Thinking that he did it, because I was like, oh, here comes especially when the other speedster shows up in Metropolis or London or wherever they are. I can't remember wherever they were, where Lois Lane was, to save Lois Lane.
Right.
And I was like, oh yeah, he is in here. Now either my hearing is going bad, which is more likely, or my stereo system was kind of on the fritz, which is also likely. Every time they said Thawne's name, I thought they said
Thrawn.
No, not Thrawn, but Thawne. I thought they said thong. Like I was like, thong? Who's thong?
Wow, Stephen, we see where your mind goes to. See, when I heard Thawne, all I can hear is Thrawn, being the Star Wars and Thrawn fan that I am, and I'm like, yeah, bring on Thrawn. Yeah, I want to see Thrawn in this. Yeah.
I was like, who's thong? Thong? I'm like, oh, he's got to be talking about Reverse Flash. He's got to be talking about Thawne, and it threw me off, because I always thought Zoom was a different person just because of the Flash TV show.
Yeah.
And so when they had the different names, I was like, okay, they're just talking about the yellow guy, the yellow Flash guy, kind of a thing. And I loved how, so in the beginning of the story, going through, okay, here now he is with his mom, what's going on. And I thought it was a good setup. It was a good aspect of
actually saying, just to clarify, I do believe in the comics that there is a difference between Eobard Thawne and Professor Zoom.
And Professor Zoom.
I'll have to look up, but I think they actually are two different characters. Eobard is the original Reverse Flash.
He's the 25th century dude.
Right. He is the original Reverse Flash. He is Barry Allen's Lex Luthor. That's exactly who he is.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. Okay.
Sorry. Go ahead.
No. That's fine. I love that. So, so then we move to seeing who the characters are in this new world, and to see Cyborg looked beefier. It was almost like Cyborg had been taking some of the what's the stuff in Batman? Venom. The stuff that Batman got hooked on, that Bane is on, kind of a thing. The Venom serum or whatever. So anyway, he looked beefy. He was beefy. I was like, dude, working for the president. Now, was that president supposed to be a reflection of Obama?
Yeah,
okay.
that was President Barack Obama, definitely.
Yeah.
And like I said, I rechecked because I couldn't remember when Flashpoint came out. So I rechecked the date on it, and it came out in 2011. So that would have been during President Obama's presidency
tenure.
Dang, I can't say that.
No, but it was good.
So yeah, it's appropriate. It fits. And that's kind of cool because if you go back to Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns, President Reagan is in Dark Knight Returns also in the news clips in Dark Knight Returns. So it's kind of cool that they incorporated the current president of the time into each of those.
Yeah, it didn't bother me.
No, it's cool. It's cool.
Yep. And then here he comes himself. Guns blazing.
There was one thing I wanted to say about Cyborg.
Oh yeah.
Cyborg. Speaking of Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns, Cyborg actually his character in Flashpoint reminded me a lot of Superman in The Dark Knight Returns, and how Superman had become an agent of the government. And I felt Cyborg kind of filled that role in Flashpoint.
Huh. Okay. I can see that. Because I mean that in this one, that's what he was. He was an agent of the government, trying to head up.
And that's exactly what Superman became in The Dark Knight Returns.
Yep. So let's roll to Guns A-Blazing Batman. I was like, what the what? I'm like, now I already had a heads up, and I already kind of knew that this was going to be Thomas Wayne, kind of a thing. But when they walked in, because we've had prior discussions, kind of a thing. But I was glad to see the movie based upon what you had experienced about this Batman character, about Thomas Wayne Batman.
Right.
And he goes out with guns blazing, and I didn't realize that. I don't think I realized that.
Let me ask you something.
Killing.
Since now that you've seen the Flashpoint Paradox movie or animated movie, can you see Jeffrey Dean Morgan playing Thomas Wayne?
Oh, yes.
Now you know why I want Jeffrey Dean Morgan to be a live action Thomas Wayne.
He would be incredible. And it always surprised me at the beginning of Batman. That was Batman v Superman, right?
Yes.
So it did surprise me at the beginning of that, where they show the alley scene, the Batman alley scene where the parents get killed. But I was like, dude, you got Jeffrey Dean Morgan and Lauren Cohen to play those parts. I'm like, man, that's a waste of good actors, you know, just to give them that. And then
that was just right. That was just to set the live action version of Flashpoint up. And now when you go back and think about that, it's incredible.
It's incredible.
I think she would be fantastic. I've never seen her I've never seen her actually. Well, I guess she's come close in The Walking Dead every once in a while to walking that thin line of being a dark character. In fact, she's getting ready to walk that line because they're about to put her and Negan up against each other in The Walking Dead right now, which is a whole nother conversation. But, I mean, there's a possibility we could see this version of the Joker in her in The Walking Dead coming up, which could be really interesting. So I would love to see her as... Well, I guess I just gave it away.
Just go for it. Let's do it. Let's talk about it.
So we're into the Bruce Wayne or Thomas Wayne part.
Wayne Batman.
So at this point, we find out Barry goes to Wayne Manor because Barry knows who Bruce is. Barry knows that Bruce is Batman.
Like, where are you at?
Right.
Bruce?
So he's going to Bruce to find out what's going on because he looks. Bruce is a confidant to him. Okay, so he goes to Bruce, but Thomas Wayne in this timeline has no clue who Barry Allen is. No one's ever heard of the Flash because at this point the Flash doesn't exist because Barry never got his powers. So Thomas is like, who are you and how did you break into here?
How did you know?
Right.
How did you get in here?
And Barry thinks he's talking to Bruce, but all of a sudden it strikes him. Wait a minute. Because Thomas says Bruce was killed. And then that's when it strikes Barry. Wait a minute. In this timeline, the opposite happened. Bruce was the one killed, and his parents remained alive. And I don't think it's that point we realize. I don't think it's that point we realize yet. But Thomas Wayne becomes a dark, very dark Batman.
Oh, willing to kill.
Willing to kill.
Use guns.
He gives up his profession as a doctor.
Yeah, becomes a casino owner. I loved it.
Becomes a casino owner, which is great.
That'll get you money.
Yeah,
that'll get you some money, right?
So he's still rich. He's still rich,
right? And
but
when they go ahead.
But Martha becomes the Joker.
I did not see that. I did not know that.
Mind blowing
into it.
It
was mind blowing because she touched him, trying to hold him where the blood was, kind of a thing to stop the bleeding, but he died. And then as a mom, your child has died and stuff. And then she's wiping her face.
Yep.
I wonder if they're going to show the blood on her face. That's where my brain was. If they're, if it's going to go there. And, holy guacamole Batman.
Holy guacamole Batman. I love it.
It just
you forgot the
weight. Right. The boy wonder hit the Burt Ward.
The fist in the palm.
Fist in the palm, yes.
Right.
So when they revealed her as the Joker, I'm like, I just didn't see it coming. That was a great surprise. It was a great surprise.
Yeah. One of the best parts of the story, honestly. That just fantastic. Yeah,
it didn't go anywhere with it. It was always kind of back there, but it technically they didn't have to or didn't need to. It was just an element of the story to tell you how the craziness of what happened when this new timeline occurred, the changes that occurred.
Something that could happen to a parent's mind if they lost their young child. Right. Which I think that's
So then go
it's
back
heartbreaking,
to Lauren,
but it's great.
If Lauren Cohen plays or does that scene, she could do it. She could do that
easily, definitely. Yeah.
I was like, what? So that was a neat surprise. Now moving on, that whole electrocution scene with the chemicals to try to recreate the event.
I love Thomas Wayne. You're crazy.
Right. You're crazy. And so I was just like, oh, this ought to be good, because it's not going to happen the first time. So when it didn't seem to happen or whatever, it wasn't going to happen. It's like,
But now you got to give the story credit there because they showed heart in Thomas Wayne, because Thomas felt really bad once Barry was a crispy critter.
Well, here's my point about the first thing. I thought, well, obviously it's not going to work on the first time. That was my thing, and then it didn't work, and then all of a sudden then he got the lightning bolt, and then zapped, and then he got caught on fire and electrocuted and all that kind of stuff. So
which was a great.
I thought
that was a great Frankenstein moment, by the way.
Right. It's Igor, not Igor, or Igor, not Igor. So I was thrown that okay, it's not going to work the first time. Of course, it's not going to work the first time, but it's all in the same event. But then when he got torched, that surprised me because I was like, because I thought that not going to happen the first time was just kind of that first half of that scene. Dude, he was messed up, as you said, crispy critter. I'm like, whoa. I was like,
holy crispy critter, Batman.
Right. Right. Oh, we've started it now. Let's see how many more we get in the rest of this time. So then,
and Robin's not even in this.
Right. So then he, he's toasted, and he's like, let's do it again. I was like, dude, you are messed up. But I think that was the drive. It showed the character, the drive behind Barry Allen. I think that's what that did.
But see, and that's what I'm also talking about is at that point, Thomas actually feels regret. He feels a little remorse because he's like, we shouldn't be doing this, dude. You know, when he first set it up, he's just like, oh, dude, you're crazy. And then when it happens, he actually feels bad for helping him set this up. So it showed that the Thomas Wayne Batman, as cold-hearted as he is and cynical, I think
cold-hearted towards criminals,
right? But it showed that there was a heart to Thomas Wayne. You know,
well, that's why it was a doctor, I would assume, in the beginning, and he had family. So yeah,
of course, I guess it's kind of like the Grinch. You know, Grinch's heart is so small and then grows three. Anyway,
right. I would say, you know, then the next thing they do it again, and okay, you know, and it works, kind of a thing, and he gets his speed. I did like the aspect, well, okay, now all he has to do is run back and movie's over, you know, kind of a thing. And I like the aspect that there was another,
don't quite work that easily.
It did. Yes, I liked how I can't do it, and then, well, there's another speedster here. I was like,
well, yeah,
Eobard Thong is there.
Oh, I don't think I want to see Steven's cut of this movie.
Right. Well, here's the thing. I have probably ruined it for everybody out there, because next time you watch this movie, that you're going to hear it. You're going to hear Thong. Thong must be here.
Stop it. Stop it now.
Oh my goodness. So then, I did like it. I did like, you know, he must be here. I like the introduction to other characters as we move in. And so let's spend some time talking about the Aquaman versus Wonder Woman, Atlantis versus Themyscira.
Right.
War, because that is the huge conflict happening behind the scenes.
Right.
I mean, what the time change created was this big thing. To be open, I didn't like it.
Well, I don't like the event that led up to it.
Well, here's the thing. It's totally out of character. We'll get to that event in just a minute.
I agree.
It's totally out of character for those characters, but yet we are in a different alternate time. But yet, if they're still the people who they were, would that not continue? And when we get the introduction of another superhero, I wondered the same thing, if they would make that person dark. And we'll get to that in a minute. Would they make that person dark? And I lived in anticipation and fear that that's what was going to happen when they get that other superhero later on, because the precedent had already been set that our superheroes are selfish, egotistical individuals.
Sure. Yeah.
And I will say that whole scene with Aquaman, already married or already with the Queen,
right,
Mira, but then, you know, coming to grips to create some kind of truce or whatever, or agreement. It was really vague, and I can't remember what the issue was, but then they decided to seal their agreement by having sex with one another.
Right. That's,
you know, where'd that come from?
Okay.
Now,
if granted, I know they needed that element to start the war between the two fractions, but okay, I could accept that more had Aquaman not been married to Mira, if we wouldn't have had Queen Mira in this version. But again, you needed that element to start the war. I get it. I didn't like the whole, Aquaman's going to cheat on Mira.
She sees it.
Right.
What's up with that?
Right.
Any wife would go in there immediately and cut off his weenie. I'm just saying, if you're caught in the middle of it, you better believe, you know, you're going to get bobbited. Lorraine Bobbitt, was that
Lorraine Bobbitt. Yeah.
So I'm just saying.
Now let's see how many of our listeners know what that means.
Right. Hurry up, Google search Bobbitt. How you spell that? Bobbitt, I think. So, you know, some of that part I just didn't like. It wasn't as far as character story goes, you're right. It was just, we've got to fill in this plot hole.
Right.
We've got to fill in why it's going on. And I think it was done weak.
But I think that's the only reason I can accept it is just because it's in the dark alternate universe. But yeah, I didn't feel that fit either one of their characters. Which this goes back to the New 52 and why I don't like the New 52 also.
Okay, good to know. All right, we'll save that.
We have a Superman Wonder Woman moment that I hated. I hated. So, and I hate that moment more than I hate this one. So,
okay,
yeah.
All right, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's worse in my opinion. Okay. It's much worse.
All right,
because this
moving into injustice territory, kind of a thing.
No, because Injustice had nothing to do with that. It's just, at least, we say that this was a weak moment and weak in writing, but at least it had a purpose. The scene I'm talking about in New 52 has no purpose. It has no purpose whatsoever, except for fanboy. The only way I can put it, fanboy wet dreams. That's it. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Anyway, gotcha. I'll get off of that. Sorry. Went down a rabbit hole.
Yeah. Right. I hear you.
I don't like the New 52. Sorry.
That's all right. No, that's okay.
Court of Owls is good, but other than that.
I love Court of Owls. I wanted to read Court of Owls. That's really what it was, and I really enjoyed it.
Sure.
So let me ask you this. We move. The fight with Mira and Wonder Woman, it starts off and you're like, what? And you see the beginning, then you see the aftermath. Like, dude, they messed up that room. They had a big battle and I wish we could have seen it, kind of a thing. So, it was pretty cool. I get it. Hell hath no fury than a woman scorned. I get that. You see that in Wonder Woman later on in the battle. But when they killed Mira, that got all the Atlanteans all upset. And then how dare you attack us? And then Themyscira, all the Amazons going at us. Like, okay, so there's your big conflict that happens and goes through. And that was fine. I get it for the point of showing how much things got changed.
Sure.
Then we get the big battle in the end. Okay. Big fat battle is just holy cow. You got all these characters you've introduced that are, in there that, have some kind of parts, that there's another speedster, Thawne is there. So I'm like, okay. And then, when Barry shows up, they got the big battle and that's fine. But when Thawne shows up and they have the battle and stuff, that was pretty cool. There's some cool elements of how fast they were going and getting hits in and stuff like that. And then when when Thawne gashes his leg or stabs his leg, I'm like, oh, he's not running anywhere now. He's hosed, kind of a thing. And, I thought that was interesting. We should have said spoiler discussion at the beginning of this, but it's 10 years.
It's 10 years old. It's 10 years old, dude.
Then that's where he explained it as far as, this whole world. And I love the aspect when he said, who's the villain? And I'm like, and he's like, think, Barry. Think how this started. I'm like, no. That's where I was at.
It's a heck of a twist.
Yeah, it is a great twist that it was, I thought he had done this. I did like the fact that in the ring was when he was with Batman, here, I'll show you I'm the Flash, and does his ring, and there's the suit, but it's yellow. I'm like, oh, then they deduced that through that his maniacal darkness wanted him to know he was there, or he did it, kind of a thing. And so, it's Yellow Flash, it's Reverse Flash and stuff. And then when he's there and he's like, you did this, I was like, oh, what? Because I went the whole movie thinking that
it's Reverse Flash.
I had figured out, or excuse me, I've seen Flashpoint stuff. When we looked at Flashpoint from the CW show, it was Barry Allen that did it, blah, blah, blah. When I started watching the Flashpoint Paradox, the movie, this one, I was surprised. I was like, oh, they have it as Yellow Flash did. Reverse Flash did this. Okay. And it was a surprise. It was like, holy crap.
Yeah.
You did this, because that was that jump in the beginning that threw me off, that I felt like I needed to rewind and go back again.
Right.
Because I was like, did I miss something? But at that point of the reveal, I realized, oh, that's why it was such a weird jump, because they were saving the big reveal of Barry did all of this.
Right.
And
which that was fantastic storytelling right there.
It was great storytelling, because it wasn't just, oh, you did this. It was, who's the villain? And who's the one who was selfish? Who was the one who was trying to get his way no matter what? I'm like, oh, well done storytelling, because it wasn't just the aspect of the event that he saved her. It was the villain giving his monologue,
right? Yeah.
But the villain's monologue was really what a hero would say.
Right.
In other words, it's because of your selfishness. And then at that point, I think right now I'm to the point where now that makes sense to Aquaman's selfishness, to Wonder Woman's selfishness, that whole thing. So,
but see, the great thing is, if you look at the character of Barry Allen is one of the most how do I say it? Yeah, I didn't want to use nice guy. I want to virtuous. Nice guy.
One of the virtuous, most nice.
One of the most virtuous.
That's a $3 word right there.
Hey, that's hard for my brain. He is one of the most virtuous heroes in the DC unit. At least on the comic book side, he is, in my opinion. That's where I think he falls a little short in the Justice League film. I don't get that same feeling out of him in that film. He feels a little more naive in that film. And granted, there's some naivety to him in this story, but it plays well, and it shows that even somebody as virtuous as the Flash can still have our same human flaws.
Right.
And he does. Ultimately, he misses his mom. I get that. That makes sense. He misses his mom. Given the opportunity, he would bring her back for anything. And I think that's what this shows. It shows that, okay, he brought her back and he didn't realize that he brought her back. I think it was more in his mind, thinking, if I could only bring her back. And then somehow he did it, kind of unconsciously. And but that shows us that sometimes those feelings can harm us. Even somebody as virtuous as Barry Allen, the Flash.
Yeah, I think good intentions. You may have good intentions.
What's the saying? Hell, the pathway to hell is filled with good intentions.
Oh.
Right?
Yeah, that's not a biblical phrase.
Well, I didn't say it was biblical. There's truth to it, though. There's truth to it.
Seems to me, yeah. Good intention.
I never said it was biblical. I'll play it back to you after we finish recording this. I didn't say that. I just said there's the saying.
Yes. True. Very true. Very true. But you are right that you may have what you think is, how shall I say this? What may be right for you may have dire consequences on a larger scale.
Right.
And I'm not trying to go back to like Wrath of Khan, Spock, where he says, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. There's some philosophical issues with that phrase, but even though a neat phrase, I think here it goes back to the monologue, the villain monologue of who is the villain here.
Right.
And how one small decision of selfishness can destroy the world.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it was really that was really good. It was that in itself is the nugget of incredible storytelling that this film did.
Right.
Yeah.
And like I said, it affected Barry's world afterwards. He didn't just go back and everything was back in place exactly the way it was before. There were changes that happened. Now, in the Flashpoint version that was told in the CW, I like how they explain that in with Jay Garrick explaining it to Barry, because Barry didn't understand what was going on, and they didn't go into this. That's one of the things I think they did better on the CW than what one. The CW storytelling was okay. It wasn't the best version of this story, but I would recommend it. It's a good version. It's just not as good as this. But this explanation from Jay Garrick I thought was great, because he takes a mug and breaks it, and he says, you can take this mug and you can glue it back together and you can reuse it still. But the thing is, those fractures are always going to be in that mug. You will never get rid of the fractures. They're always going to be there. And that's what he was explaining to Barry is, sure, you went back in time, you changed things, and then you came back and it appears to be fixed, but the fractures from what you did still remain. So I thought that was a great explanation. I love it, and that is one thing I wish they would have done in this, but yeah.
That is a good explanation. Thanks for sharing that. That is really good and all. Let's talk. There's two more things I want to talk about.
Sure.
Let's talk about Superman, and then let's talk about the very.
Oh yeah, I forgot about Superman.
So this was what I referenced earlier when I said, they break into the facility and, it's going to be Superman. All right. but before they got to him, before they opened the door to get to him, here's where my brain went. I said, you know what? They probably have him locked up because he's probably selfish, just like Wonder Woman and Aquaman. That was my fear. And when they opened the door and it was all red, now red sun, I get it.
Right.
I'm okay with that. Stick with his power.
But your brain went to color red means danger.
Danger. Yep,
right.
It sure did.
Right.
It sure did.
Right.
And I was like, oh crap, what's gonna happen? They're walking in. There he is in the thing. And then he's like super thin. He's like me in high school. I was like, holy cow.
He was thinner than the Joker.
He was real thin. And he was damaged.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. He was damaged.
Then he just flies off.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So there's a whole scene I liked, the whole aspect where they developed friends. We're your friends.
Right.
And he knew enough to understand that. And
I think he accepted that right away too.
I think he did, because they came and they freed him.
Right.
And with that, and they were trying to protect him. And I think he experienced that as well as he could as a damaged individual.
Sure.
I still thought, oh my gosh, he's going to go off, kind of a thing. I was so afraid. But I did appreciate the friend thing. And you're right. He flies off. And I'm like, all right, well, there's that.
Right. And the characters exactly the same way. They're like, oh, well, I guess this was kind of a waste.
Right. I mean, he does come back for the final battle to a certain degree because of I think that relationship with Cyborg. And I liked that, friend where he tried to save him, which was really good. And when the whole world was blowing up, now we're going to move, to the end just a wee bit. And I'll stop here. Superman was holding Cyborg when he got, when the blast came to, kind of a thing, to destroy the world, and that was the last, Aquaman's last, stupid whatever, it just, I have a tough time with all that. So let me move on because I don't want to go off on that.
Okay.
Really. But let's talk about the end. And,
yes. Are you referring to Back in the Batcave?
No, not yet. No,
okay.
That's the very, very end. That's kind of like a prologue thing.
Oh yeah,
that's good. We'll definitely talk about that.
Oh, I want to get your thoughts on that. Definitely.
Yeah, yeah. Eobard Thawne is monologuing.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden he stops. And then there's blood that, because his face is right in the screen. All of a sudden his blood come down. I was thinking, I'm like, what just happened? And then his head moves and there's a big old hole in his head. And you see Batman through the hole in his head. I was like, what? That's awesome. It's probably the only time I'll ever sit there and say Batman shot a guy, and I thought it was pretty cool.
Which is what I always come back to in several episodes. Yeah, Steven's going to complain about Batman killing people.
Right.
So I got it recorded the one time that Batman killed somebody that you're not going to complain about it.
Right.
But now this wasn't Bruce Wayne Batman. This was Thomas Wayne.
It was Thomas Wayne Batman. And it was fitting for the character. They had set up his character arc, and I understood where he was coming from.
Now, wait a minute. What gun did he use, though?
That was that the gun that killed Bruce?
Yes. If you go back to the cave,
I thought it was because he broke the glass.
Right. He kept the gun that was used to kill Bruce. He kept it in a little glass case thing, and he busted that. He busted it just before they left. Mm-hmm. That's the same gun. He used the same gun to kill Thawne, not Thong.
I've ruined you now.
He used the same gun to kill Eobard. How's that?
Right.
That was used to kill Bruce Wayne. Yep. Mm-hmm. Which I thought was pretty fitting.
It was. It was a good circle of that story.
Right.
It really was. And then it was like, okay, run, Barry. You got to run, Barry. But give my son this. Give Bruce this in your timeline.
Yes.
And so Barry runs like he can't run. Oh no, then all of a sudden he can run. But I mean, he has healing ability.
Yes.
I mean, it had to be for the story. I get it, kind of a thing.
Well, Barry, the character has a healing ability.
He does, and I get it. It just I was just like, it just happened. Is he going to heal that fast? I'm like, okay. Then he's limping, trying to run. I'm like, okay. Now there's the scene where the blast is coming that's destroying the world, and you see you see Superman.
Well, now wait a minute. Let's go back to that just for a second. I'm sorry.
Sure.
But you're saying that you think that's a little impossible that Barry could heal that quickly. So let's go back to some.
Not necessarily. Well, that's not what I'm saying. But yeah, maybe it is what I'm saying.
That's what it sounds like you're saying to me. So let's think about this in a slightly realistic point of view.
Okay.
We've all heard stories, incredible stories of parents, when their child is in danger, and parents doing incredible feats that they would have never been able to do, like lifting the back end of a car or something just to save their child. We've heard of real life stories where people have gotten amazing strengths in times of crisis like that. So think about Barry. Barry's already a super powered individual.
I'll give you that.
And he's got it on his mind that he's got to save the earth, the universe.
Right.
So
I'll give you that. I like that. I do. I like that. Okay. Yeah.
So that could have sped up his already.
But I will say, how many of us, when he said, run, Barry, run, run, Forrest, run.
Mama always said life is like a box of chocolates.
And let's see how many of our listeners know that. So I will. So then he goes. You assume he fixes the timeline.
Right.
I love your example of the cracked mug, and so it did make me wonder if there's a Flashpoint 2, where he's, you're figuring out all the stuff that he changes.
Oh, if you crack a mug while you're listening to this, you can always go to Two Geeks and a Mic web page and go to our merch page, and you can buy yourself a Two Geeks and Microphone mug to replace that.
Right on.
That won't have cracks in it.
Right. That's a good point. For those who are at the end of this episode, we have a website, 2geeksandamic.com, 2 geeks, Mike. It's just 2 Geeks Mike.
Right.
2 Geeks Mike. We tried to shorten it as best as we could, but that has links to our Facebook, our podcast page, as well as our Ko-fi page, Buy Us a Coffee, and our Zazzle page with all our merch. Yeah. So I love it. Love it.
Sorry.
No, that's good. We should start off with that. Where he comes back and he gives to Bruce Wayne the note.
Yes,
I thought was a fitting end to this film. And here's where my brain went. My brain went a couple of ways. One, he gives him the note, and I thought that's awesome. He gets a note from his dad, and you see Batman tear up, which you don't see emotion from Batman like that.
Right.
And that's a big deal. If you know the character of Batman, that moment was a big deal. And that was good. And then he makes a point. Bruce Wayne makes a note to say something about him being a messenger. Well, in Greek mythology, the speedster Hermes is a messenger.
Oh, that's a good point.
And that's where my brain went. I'm like, that's pretty cool, kind of a thing.
And like we discussed with Paul Bateman, pretty much all the DC characters are based on Greek mythology.
Oh, that's right. That's right. We can talk about that. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So yeah, that's a good point. Very good.
Yep. Yeah. But for me, that was the we're getting close to the end of our time, but it was a good movie. And so thank you for recommending that I watch that.
The multiverse isn't all that bad.
Oh my gosh. Let's save that for the multiverse episode we're going to have to do.
All right.
So yeah, hey, hey everybody, this sounds like we're going to do a multiverse episode comparing multiverses. Well, yeah. So my final thoughts are thank you. This was good. It was a good movie. It was worth a watch. And it did help me get some more money out of my HBO Max subscription. So thank you. Justify. I have my HBO Max subscription and I'm not buying any movies anymore. So I just that's where I'm like, okay, it was good. I would recommend watching it. If you're a DC fan, I do recommend if you've never seen it, I would recommend seeing it.
Yep.
Overall, that's why I gave it 4 out of 5. I think it is worth a watch. It really is.
Oh, there is one other thing I wanted to say.
Yeah.
Jason Momoa has ruined me.
What do you mean?
Because when I watch this, okay, I see Aquaman in here and I'm going, yeah, that's not Aquaman.
Right. I thought the exact same thing.
Freaking Jason Momoa has ruined me because now I want to see him in all the Aquaman stuff, and it's like, yeah,
right. Agreed.
I hate him. I like him, but I hate him. He just messed up all of it.
In this episode, we just admitted 2 things. One, that we're forever ruined by Jason Momoa being Aquaman and wanting to see him as Aquaman, and it's Thawne, not Thong.
Oh gosh.
All right. Well, with that, let's end our episode. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. We are thankful that you joined us all the way through. If you've listened to the whole thing, thanks so much. We really appreciate it. And yes, please check us out on our webpage, 2geeksmic.com, number 2 GEEKSMIC.com. And that has the links to everything else, to our merch, to our coffee page, which has extra videos. We've got a lot of postings that are there for free, but we also have stuff. You buy us a coffee for $2 and you get access for that month of everything, all supporter stuff. So we've got videos and all kinds of other stuff. So thank you so much for joining us. Mike, any final closing words for this episode?
Yeah, make sure that you go on iTunes or anywhere that you can rate the podcast, please. Give us 5 stars. Give us a nice review.
It does help us. Yes.
Also, on our webpage, you can now email us. You can either email us or message us. One of the two. One of the two of us will get your message, and we will try to respond as quickly as we can. Send us your questions. Send us your comments. Please be kind. That's all I ask, is just be kind. All right. With that said, I think we need to close out this podcast. We thank you all for listening. We'll join you next time in the Geekdom. And to that, I say over and out, and may the force be with you. Thank you for joining us today on the Two Geeks and a Microphone podcast. Tune in next week when we will have more news and reviews. Until then,
may the force be with you.